More government handouts for housing. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee because, well, we're going to need it, and I don't think this is going to surprise anyone who's a regular of the channel, but I want to talk about an article discussing changes to the home guarantee scheme announced by the Prime Minister. Now remember, we're in the middle, I'll just adjust this, there we go, brilliant. We're in the middle of an election, guys, so it's promises galore. Forget about the budget, don't worry about that stuff. Don't worry about the future. Your grandkids' kids will pay for that. They'll just punt it down the road. So of course, well, the government once again is juicing up the housing sector. Now, let me bring up a little chart here just to look at how the government came to the rescue here. There's a few things I want to discuss. Now, well, this is the one that really scares me, that isn't getting much attention, and we're starting to see some of the fallout, the keeping of zombie companies alive. Now, these are companies that are essentially trading while insolvent. Now, what you have to do every year, you've got to sign if you're a company, you've got to sign a little declaration to ASIC saying that you are not insolvent, that you can meet your bills as they fall due. Now, if you're in business, you may have provided services to someone, you need to sign a contract. Sure, you can get a deposit, sometimes not, and then they'll have to pay you. But the dodgy thing is businesses can take your services, use them, and not even when they don't have the money to pay you. And they know they don't have the money to pay you, but they want your services. They want your architectural design for a restaurant they're going to deploy, or they want you to install some windows in a new fit out that they're doing, and they're not going to pay you. And these are zombie companies. These are two examples that I can relate to, but this is what terrifies me, guys, because they changed the rules. They changed the rules with regards to the ability to trade while insolvent, just to keep everything going along with the pandemic. Now, you can see in the chart there just the decline in companies entering external administration, and it's slowly starting to pick up to the trend again. But that really worried me more than anything else. And now we're starting to see calls that 50% of builders are running at a loss, guys. Because, well, all the bullshit that's happened, you've got an overheated market, you've got supply chain issues, you've got importing costs skyrocketing. So yeah, it's not easy. You had JobKeeper, that's 9% of Victorians were nearly supported by that, everyone. And honestly, I don't blame people to take advantage of it. Here's the thing. If you've got a business and your competitor is getting JobKeeper and pretty much a free handout from the government, you have to take advantage of the same scheme they're taking advantage of, or you'll be at a competitive disadvantage. This is the problem when the government picks winners and losers and when they step in like this. Now, should we have just not had JobKeeper and put it all through Centrelink and let everyone go unemployed? Or maybe we need to appreciate that this is the price that we're paying. This is the debt that we've incurred for all of these government interventions, and we can't forget it. So then we had, this is just the JobKeeper applicants, the percent employed people. Now, more housing, juicing the market. The cash rate is at 0.1%. I still haven't updated that chart. And I have a special episode, the chart updating episode. But that's for the regulars. I have a RBA cash rate chart. Hang on. I won't bring it up. This one, it'll make, oh, here it is. This is the cash rate, guys. So you can see I haven't updated this chart in some time. And the joke is, let's see how long I can run with it. 3% used to be considered the emergency cash rate. That was the emergency rate. 0.1 is insane. So you have to understand, when we hear all this news about the economy going fantastic, it's been artificially stimulated by insanely cheap money. Just keep that in mind. Home builder did its job fantastically. It kept the construction industry moving and then kept money flowing through the economy from everyone in the construction industry. That's what it's for. It wasn't to provide social housing. It wasn't to provide new houses for people. Hey, it wasn't even a real discount on doing projects. It made sure all these projects that were about to happen or were just in the pipeline, it made them happen to keep everything going. And honestly, we all paid more for the jobs than we would otherwise because they overheated the sector. That's what happens. You got first home buyer grants. 88 grand used to be a lot. In Tasmania, I think they're 200 grand, and they'll own a chunk of your house. This is getting really, really interventionist, really government coming and buying a part owner in your house. I mean, do we want to live in Australia where that is common, where that is the norm? Because this is the first steps down that path, everyone. I think we've seen now that the whole slippery slope fallacy in some ways isn't a slippery slope. It's a slide, a nice, easy, greased up, oily slide that you go down. And it's fun until you fall off at the bottom. You've got government loan guarantees of 5 and 2%. So think about that. You just need 2%. So you know what? Let's just ram it home here. If we have $1 million, guys, times 0.02, that means you can get a mortgage for $1 million with a $20,000 deposit. Just remember that, okay? So if you can scrape together 20 grand, you could borrow about $1 million. Sure, it's not. That's just an example. I don't think you could. Well, we'll see. Maybe they've extended the program to $1 million property. Shit, I hope not. You've got negative gearing. That's just part of our culture here now. And the problem with negative gearing I have is that it disincentivizes people from investing in other things. It means a loss-making house is a good investment. It encourages people to put money into property. And then more people put money into property. That drives up the cost of these assets, which makes it harder for renters to get out of the rental market, which encourages more the government to prop it up more because they get more revenue from their stamp duty and from their rates and all of these other things. And that everyone uses negative gearing, guys. It's not just the elites. A big portion of our society takes advantage of that. And you can't blame them. Why would you jump through the hoops of starting a business, dealing with all the bullshit, when you can just negative gear a house? Okay? Seriously. And then we had the super withdrawals that a lot of people used to jump into the market. And I don't blame them either. Sure, the media, the super fund propaganda said everyone spent it on boob jobs and gambling. Hey, that could be an investment too. But a lot of people hit debt and got a deposit together. Can't blame them, can you? Housing seems to be a protected species here in Australia. It's Australian gold. Culturally, this is what our culture will invest in for long-term security of wealth. That's how we've been conditioned. We've got a very stable country here. Sure, there's a few issues, but really it's a bunch of first world problems. Corruption isn't that big a deal, regardless of what people want you to believe here in Australia, not compared to other countries. Remember, we don't need to be the utopia of the world. We just need to look better than some of the other places. So that's why we're conditioned now. Can you blame people for thinking property is a long-term stable asset? Whereas people in other countries, maybe there's a little bit more uncertainty. They're more likely to go to precious metals or cryptos. But Aussies, this is our gold, guys. So let's have a look at this article now with that in mind. The Morrison government says fresh tweaks to its home guarantee scheme will allow tens of thousands of more Australians to buy homes. So again, they're making it rather than allowing the market to correct. And I don't think there's any political will on either side to allow the housing market to correct. You saw what happened in New Zealand, where people have an expectation of their property to keep going up. That could lose an election. And honestly, if Albo keeps doing the shit job that he's doing right now with forgetting simple things and showing that he's just doesn't have his finger on the pulse, we might have ScoMo get him with another miracle win. Oh boy. Prime Minister Scott Morrison has announced the price caps for homes available under the scheme will increase. Oh, you're kidding. Expanding the number of people who are eligible. They're increasing the scheme. They're increasing the price cap. I shouldn't be surprised. I really shouldn't be surprised. Now, hopefully this won't be the beginning of the mess that they had in the United States, because here we're chained to our houses. We're chained to them, guys. We can't jingle the keys back to the bank like you can in America. So it's a little different. It's a little different. And the cynical side of me suggests that indebting your population into property, into large lifelong mortgages, is a very good way to get a stable, compliant population. Maybe I'm just being too cynical there, everyone. So, and I mean, what else do we... Is that the only thing holding together Australia as a multicultural society? It's the mortgage debt. Is that it? We're building a strong... Anyway, the scheme allows people to purchase a home with a deposit of just 5%, with the government guaranteeing the other 15%. So the 2% is only for single parents. So 5%, guys. We're building a stronger future for Australians by making home ownership easier, by making more properties eligible for the scheme and expanding it to 50,000 places each year. 50,000 each year. Now, let me bring up... I'm going to bring up a chart here just to give you a bit of perspective about that. Where is it? Hang on. Bear with me a sec, guys. Property prices, square meter arrears, cores, home liquidations. I got too much coming up here. I can't find it. Yeah, I'll be really organized, and I guarantee you I'll cut this out. Sure. What's going on? What's going on? There we go. Building approvals. Okay, now have a look at the line there, the total, where you've got total dwellings. Private sector houses is the blue. Now, this is every month. So 50,000, say we got averaging about 10,000. See the spike there we had in 2021? And then it went back down. So let's say the average, probably more like 8, but we'll say 10. So we've got 5 months of the year of building approvals is equal to this scheme. Just put that in context. You know what that's going to do? It's going to put more fuel on the fire. Now, rather than increasing supply, rather than pushing the number of houses up, they're tackling at the other end. They're going to make it easier for people to get in. So it'll drive up the costs because supply for housing takes a lot of time. It takes time to build houses. And we're seeing already in other examples where one builder was complaining, you know, a house would take 6 months. It's now taking a year to build because of supply and labor issues. So literally they're pouring more fuel onto the fire. Will people care? I don't think so. I think they'll just see this and go, awesome, because they're looking out for number one. And can you blame them? Not really. So the 50,000 places were announced in the federal budget earlier in the year. People are cutting years off the time they need to save a deposit for a home because of the program. Now, even more Australians can get into a home sooner. This is the thing. They want you in the house paying off that mortgage, because then, well, you're more likely to continue with your discretionary retail spending. Saving to buy a house has always been hard work, and we know as prices have increased, it's getting harder. That's why these higher price caps take into account the 50,000 place per year expansion of the home guarantee scheme, particularly in regional areas where the new regional home guarantee is open to non-first home buyers. Wait a minute. Non-first home buyers. So can I go get myself a regional home with a government bank guaranteed up shit? Maybe I should, guys. Out to Toowoomba there, get a nice little... I've always wanted that. Rachel and I, get a little bit of a green weekender out there with a bit more space for the kids, maybe enough to run a cow or two. What do you think? I'll get this place done, and then all the equity, mate. Bank will throw money at me like nothing. What bullshit is that, eh? There you go. Hey, maybe I should get each one of the kids their own house. Isn't that what you do? Get them each alone? Oh, boy. Yep. The government estimates its guarantee scheme has helped about 60,000 Australians buy their own home so far. It hopes the more generous price caps will help ease supply constraints in regional areas and accommodate larger families. Okay, well, this is going to drive up costs. We know it. Maybe it should. If you want to specifically target larger families, maybe you need to make a scheme where larger families are preferenced. Where if you have, 5 kids plus, there's a special different scheme for you. If you want to encourage population growth, if you want to encourage people to have big families, if you want to encourage natural population growth, maybe we need to look at what Hungary's doing, what other countries are doing to encourage that. Because if you have your natural population growing, you don't have the cultural clash where you have people coming over, and that could be an issue. But I guess if we're all chained to our mortgages, that'll all unify us as Australians more than anything else. I really think that's what's going on here. Maybe it's too early in the morning and I'm going to tinfoil hattie, but the government scheme is split into three parts. The First Home Guaranteed, aimed at first home buyers in cities with 35,000 places per year. The new Regional Homes Guarantee with 10,000 spots, targeted at people buying or constructing new homes in regional areas. And the Family Home Guarantee, aimed at single parents with 5,000 places. That's the 2% ones. And, I mean, here's the thing, guys. If you're going to take advantage of this, don't feel guilty, okay, if it's better you than someone else. But you've got to realize if the pants fall out of it, if interest rates climb up, you've got to be able to handle those payments. Okay, there's a risk there. This, the mortgage lender's insurance, pretty much, which the government is covering, is for the banks. It's to protect the banks. It's not to protect you. So you've got a scenario. Play out the scenarios yourself. People ask me, "Oh, should I buy? Should I do this?" And you can't really give that advice to someone if they should or shouldn't. All you should tell someone is run a scenario. Do worst case. If you and the missus are both working, if you can service the loan, what happens if one of you gets fired? What happens if both of you get fired? How long can you last? Go full stoicism and journal out the worst possible scenario you could imagine, and then drag yourself out of that depression and see if you can still want to do it. That's what I'd suggest. So, new price caps for the eligible in city and regional areas. Yep. So let's have a look. The highest value of the home you can purchase while still benefiting from the scheme vary from city to city. There are also different caps for regional areas. The city cap applies in populated areas with over 250,000. Oh, bugger. So that there cancels my plans of Toowoomba. Maybe I need to go out near Crow's Nest, somewhere out near there. If an area falls under that population, the regional cap applies. So, New South Wales, 800 grand in cities. Oh, so it's 900,000 in New South Wales. 750 in the regions. Victoria, 800 in cities. 5 to 650 in regions. 6 to 700 in Queensland cities. 450 to 550 in Queensland regions. 5 to 600 in WA cities. 4 to 450 in WA regions. 5 to 600 in South Australian capital cities. 350 to 450 in SA regions, 500 to 600 in Tasmania. Just look at how Tasmania's creeping up there, guys. It's high. What's it, the same as WA? Northern Territory, 700 wait. 550 to 750 in ACT. Oh, ACT. And Northern Territory, 500 to 600. So you can see they're all creeping up. Now, these are not, they're below median. Okay. Oh, no, they're not. Sorry. Well, yeah, no, actually, yes, they are. Wait, let's have a look. Let's have a look at national asking prices, and let me just refresh that. So a 3-bedder, the weekly asking prices right now for a 3-bedroom house is 1 million. That's all capital city averages. So we're below average for these houses. But they're still bloody expensive, guys. They're still bloody expensive. Well, welcome to Australia. To qualify the scheme, borrowers still need to meet the usual loan and repayment assessments from their financial institutions. New caps come into effect from July 1. In the budget delivered in late March, the government committed an extra $8.6 million to more than double the number of places available under the guarantee scheme to a total of 50,000 per year. The higher total will apply for 3 years before fading to 35,000 in 2025. Regional Home Guarantee is not starting until October 1, 3 months later than the tweaks to the 2 other programs. In his budget speech, Treasurer Josh Frydenberg described home ownership as fundamental to the coalition. Well, home ownership is a way of lifting people up, everyone. It's ingrained in our culture here. It's what they use. What people would immigrate over to Australia and they'd be able to buy a home, on one income, raise a family, go on holidays, all on a normal job. My father coming from Germany, it wasn't as easy over there as it was here. It was a different time. Maybe we're just catching up. Home Builder, the First Home Super Saver Scheme, and the Home Guarantee Scheme have helped make the dream of home ownership a reality. Tonight we go further, more than doubling the Home Guarantee Scheme to 50,000 places per year. helping more single parents buy a home with a deposit as low as 2%, helping more first home buyers buy a home with a deposit as low as 5%. I mean, that's the thing. The deposit is the bitch. It's just the struggle to get that up. Servicing the loan is probably a lot easier. It's probably cheaper. Oh, not really. I mean, it feels cheaper sometimes if you put off repairs and rates, but it's probably not that much more expensive for a lot of people renting in areas, even when it feels cheaper. Because remember, you got maintenance costs and all of those things associated with a house too. Hey, but we're becoming a DIY nation. Helping more Australians to own a home is part of our plans for the strong future. Well, it's critically important. We looked at if people would be willing to fight for Australia. And here's the issue, guys. How many young people do you think are willing to risk their lives for a country where they can't even afford a home to raise a family in? The scheme is available to singles who earn up to $125 per year and couples who earn $200,000 in combined income. Now, here's the thing. You know, $200,000 may seem a lot, but you get taxed like you can't believe. So you'd hope it'd be good enough to scrape a deposit together, scrape at least $20,000 together, but still. To illustrate its effectiveness, the budget paper pointed to a case study of a couple currently renting in Wagga Wagga, New South Wales. The pair wanted to buy their perfect house for $400,000, but were struggling to save the required deposit of $80,000 while also paying rent. Why do you want you don't want a perfect house, guys. Go cheap, then you're building equity in the dump. Do it up, get it nice. What happened to that? Has that disappeared? Does everyone always want the perfect bloody house the first time? What happened to people roughing it, for a good 10, 15 years and doing it up? Has that gone? Has that left our culture now? I mean, I looked at another article where the couple didn't even have any power tools in their house. Is that... Okay, maybe I'm a little different. I grew up a builder's son. I was playing with hammers and nails as a kid. I remember bashing a hammer on the ground and it twonking me in the head, bouncing off the concrete. And my mother yelling at my father for not supervising properly, as you should in childhood, getting up to mischief. But, come on. Let me know in the comments, guys. Am I just an old geriatric millennial? The guarantee will allow them to instead buy a home with a deposit of $20,000, a quarter of the size. The government also announced an expansion to the scope of the National Housing Finance and Investment Corporation, which has so far supported 15,000 affordable homes by giving low-cost loans to community housing providers. The NHFIC's liability cap will raise to $5.5 billion, a $2 billion increase, and that measure is forecast to support 10,000 more affordable dwellings for vulnerable Australians. Data from the Swinburne University of Technology Centre for Urban Transitions showed a dearth of social and affordable housing was costing Australian communities tens of millions per year. Dr. Andy Nygaard, an associate professor of the university, found the cost was set to grow from $676 million in foregone social and economic benefits to $1.286 billion by 2036. I'm skeptical about any of these things, any of these potential benefits from these costs. You've got to. It's all dependent on the modelling, and the modelling can be tweaked. The thrust of his analysis was that a lack of affordable housing doesn't just hurt people who can't buy or rent, it harms society as a whole. For example, a lack of housing leads to more homelessness, and more homelessness creates a high burden on the public health system. I think the highest burden on our public health system isn't from homelessness, it's from the terrible dietary guidelines that the Australian government pushes on everyone, but that's a different video. Another example, if a victim of domestic violence has nowhere to go, he or she is more likely to remain trapped, unable to escape an abuser. That adds burden to the justice system. These costs cannot be ignored. The social and economic problems associated with our affordable housing shortage will only increase over the next decade if we keep doing what we've been doing, very little. Well, we're just juicing up the market even more. We're not increasing supply. Oh, I guess this government-funded scheme is going to increase some supply for 10,000 affordable loans. We don't want this way of increasing it. You want natural increases. The morning after the budget, Mr. Morrison was asked directly why it included no more support for renters. This is about Australians getting into homes, he answered, adding, that the people buying homes are renters. The best way to support people renting a house is to help them buy a house. Dr. Cassandra Goldie, CEO of the Australian Council of Social Service, said this strategy was completely out of touch with the reality for people on low and modest incomes. She said many people renting have barely any savings, and certainly not enough to even afford a 5% home deposit. Well, what you do is you get divorced, kick the husband out, then you get all of the extra gimmies, and then you use that to get the 2% deposit. There you go. And I'm joking there. Shit, I hope people don't do that. Renters should not be second-class citizens in Australia. We've got to make renting a decent, respectable, long-term housing option for Australia, or for people. Not in our culture. It's not going to happen. Not anytime soon. It's going to take generations for that to happen. Remember, Australia is different. We're not like Europe. This was a country where everyone could come here and everyone could own a house and support a family on one income and go on holidays every year and have their own car and have a new washing machine and all these luxuries. That's what Australia used to be like. It was a land of opportunity, a lucky country. Not anymore. We've got people who are facing homelessness and hunger because they're trying to keep a roof over their heads, and they are so far away from buying a home at the moment. So there we go, everyone. Let's have a bit of a talk about this one. This really feels like it's simply more of the same. More government support and handouts for the housing sector. What do you reckon? Is this what we need? I think we need to address the not in my backyard crowd. I think we need to make it easier to build houses. And I think we need to explore different typologies. I mean, I'm looking at the picture in the article right in front of me. And guys, it's just spec home after spec home after spec home after spec home. Barely any eaves, the same copy-paste stuff again and again. Is that what we see when we talk about Australian housing? Is that what we're pushing? There's a whole lot of planning issues that need to be addressed as well. You've got people living very close in a city here in Brisbane in detached houses, everyone. Maybe it's time to, well, stop living that fantasy and realize we need to densify there significantly if you want to get affordable housing. But again, this is more of the same. Government just throwing money at the housing sector, proposing to have a solution and to win votes. I'm becoming too cynical about it. Well, what do you reckon, guys? Let me know. Are you surprised at all with this? And will Labor be any different? Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and enjoy the content I find and put together here, there are a few ways you can help out. You can financially support us by joining us on YouTube or Patreon. Use our referral links from Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. And if you need an architect, we've got a lot of experience in education, commercial, and the resource sector. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. And I'll see you in the next episode of Heise Says. Hey, I guess we can be happy they didn't increase it to 100,000 places a year. Oh, boy, oh, well. It's all about housing, guys. It's all about housing.